welcome back to your Daily Read Aloud because of Mr. Terupt. All right, we know the accident has happened. Peter threw an ice ball, disguised as a snowball. It hit Mr. Terupt. He's in a coma. Which students have gone to visit him so far? Eric, give me one.
Lexi.
Okay, Lexi was in there. Angie? Luke went first, right? And he told everyone that it had been hard, but he felt good to go see him. And that was the last group. Okay, so when Jessica, Anna, and Danielle went in to see him, who was in there? Noah?
Alexia.
Okay, and then what kind of happened to that group of friends? Dylan? Yep, do that in the hallway. Chloe?
Yeah, I'll cry.
They all kind of became friends, right? They gave Alexia a hug. They're being nice to her. Is she being nice back?
Yeah.
Alex? Yeah, so we think maybe she's changing. And we are ready to hear from Alexia today. There was no way I could, stay away forever, especially after hearing Luke say he'd been to the hospital. I didn't have a dad to take me, and my mom was waiting tables from noon to closing time every day of the week now. That made it easy for me, because there wasn't anyone at home to say, "Where do you think you're going?" Or "You aren't going anywhere." But I was still scared. I made my mind up and, rode my bike there one day after school. I knew what room he was in, because I heard Luke say it. When I got there, I went straight to the elevator and up to his floor. "Can I help you, honey?" one of the nurses asked as I hurried down the hall. I didn't look at her. I just shook my head and kept going until I found the room. I walked in. My hands flew to my mouth. I knew Teach couldn't move, but I hadn't expected him to be hooked up to so many tubes. I stood frozen for a long time. Slowly, I found the courage to tiptoe closer to his bed. "Hi, Teach," I said. "It's Lexi." Already, I fought back tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have been mean to you. I wanted to hate you for saying those things to me. But you were right, Teach." I knelt next to his bed and pulled his blanket in fists. Then big tears came, raindrop tears. They poured from me. I couldn't help it. I cried like I used to when Mom and Dad would fight. I sobbed for a few minutes before I wiped my face on his covers. Teach just looked like he was sleeping. Was he really going to die? "I'm doing better now, Teach. I'm not being mean. You'd be happy." I squeezed his blanket in my fists again and clenched my jaw to fight back more raindrop tears. "Teach, there's something else I need to tell you. I'm not sure, but I think I saw Peter leaving here. He's the one who threw the snowball, Teach. I know he didn't mean it. He didn't want this to happen. He loves you. All of us do." I dabbed my eyes with his blanket. I cried more now, but I kept talking to him. Peter hasn't, said anything in school. He hasn't talked to anyone. Not one word. But no one's trying to talk to him either. He did throw the snowball, even if he didn't mean it to hit you. So it's still his fault. I felt bad for Peter. Everything was such a mess, and I had so many mixed up feelings. I had my face in his blankets when I felt the tap on my shoulder. I looked up and Jessica was there, and so were Danielle and Anna. I hugged them. I told them I was sorry. And then it was over. All of a sudden I had 3 friends. Teach helped me, even in his coma. I missed him so much. He had to wake up. I never felt so happy and sad at the same time before. All right, on to Anna. Charlie is Danielle's 27-year-old single brother. He's the one who dropped Danielle off at my house, and he's the one who arrived to pick her up after our hospital trip. He didn't get out of his red truck and come to our door because he didn't need to. Danielle was ready. Next time I'll keep her busy, so he has to ring her doorbell. "Thanks for taking me tonight, ma'am," Danielle said as we stood on the porch. "You're welcome over any time, Danielle," my mom said. "I'd love it if we could draw together." Danielle smiled at the idea. "See you tomorrow," I said. We hugged. "Thanks," she whispered. We watched her walk out to the farm truck with the dented door. I held my breath with hope for the entire long minute. Then I was rewarded. Charlie turned his head and looked back. I saw his smile and friendly wave, a wave that Mom gladly returned. I walked to my bedroom and sat on my bed, suddenly exhausted. Mom sat next to me. "Quite an afternoon, huh?" she said. "Yes," I said. "Poor Alexia. No dad for her either." "Everybody's got a story, Anna." What does that mean? Everybody's got a story. Josiah?
Everyone has something going on at their house that you don't know about.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, no matter what, everybody's got something going on at home that other people don't know about, okay? Sometimes it's really good things, sometimes it's bad things, sometimes it's sad and happy and all sorts of things, right? How does it help us to know that everybody else has a story? How does that help us be better people? You kind of just talked about that with Mrs. Heckman. Emma?
Makes you feel happy that you're not the only one going through stuff.
Exactly, right? We're not alone in going through whatever it is we're going through. We all have to go through stuff. So everybody's got a story. I lay down and rested my head on my pillow. Mom lay down next to me. Is Mr. Terupt going to be okay? I asked. I don't know, honey, Mom said. I sure hope so. She wrapped her arm around me and I started to cry. Is it my fault? I asked. Mom sat up. Is what your fault? Mr. Terupt lying in that bed. Anna, how could it possibly be your fault? Mom sounded shocked. Because I'm one of the kids who got Peter mad enough to throw that snowball. All right, have you guys thought about that yet? Do you think the kids that made Peter mad feel like they're the ones responsible for what happened? Any ideas? Noah?
Yeah, and it's none of their fault.
Right. Things can just happen, right? Is it sometimes hard to not feel like it's our fault? Yeah. Sometimes things are out of your control. It's not your fault. Anna, you listen to me. She sounded almost mad now. Look at me. Her eyes narrowed on mine. You didn't throw that snowball, nor did you force Peter to throw it. I'm not sure whose fault it is that this happened, or if it even matters, but I do know it's not yours. Do you understand me? I just want him to be okay. I know, honey, me too. I never thought I'd have the courage to ask my mom the next thing that came out of my mouth. But my feelings just poured out after seeing Mr. Terupt like that. Do you ever blame me for what happened to you all those years ago? Blame you? Anna, honey, please tell me you're not being serious. I didn't say anything. My goodness. Mom placed her hands on my cheeks and spoke softly. Anna, I consider myself lucky to have you. I would endure all that pain again in an instant so that I could have you. I've never blamed you, nor will I. You're everything to me. A tear fell from Mom's face and landed on mine. I've always been afraid that you'd end up hating me for bringing you into the situation, Mom said. But you're the best mom ever, I said. I love you. I love you too. Mom bent forward and we hugged. Then she kissed me on the cheek and lay back down next to me. I wanted to ask her about Charlie, but I was wiped out, so I closed my eyes. Danielle. I'm glad I went to see Mr. Terupt. It wasn't easy, but it would have been a lot harder alone. I don't know how Lexi did it, but I'm glad she was there because now we're friends again. I don't think she'll be mean anymore. I think Mr. Terupt helped her. Right from his coma, he helped the four of us make wrongs right. I didn't know about Jessica's father. She seemed so perfect. I thought her family was too. I used to think Lexi was so lucky as well. Maybe I'm the lucky one, even with this extra meat on my bones. Maybe we're all lucky for having Mr. Terupt. I've been trying to figure out why the accident happened. Every night I pray and ask for help making sense of the tragedy. Mr. Terupt helped Lexi and us, and he helped me make it over to Anna's house. I want to go again. Her mom's very nice. And when he picks me up, I noticed that Charlie seemed to like looking at her. All right, Anna, she's the matchmaker. Why is she always trying to match up her mom with someone? Abby?
Because her mom's single.
Yes, her mom's single. So anytime she sees anyone single, she's always thinking, who can I match them up with?
But this is Danielle.
Oh, yes, sorry. This is Danielle. Lost my spot. About Charlie. Okay, I decided not to say anything, though. Not to Charlie. Or about wanting to go over to Anna's again. Not yet. At home, Mom and Grandma asked me how my visit went as soon as I walked into the kitchen. Did that woman do or say anything crazy? Grandma wanted to know. Was she okay? Mom asked gently. She seemed fine, Charlie said. He came to my rescue and then walked out of the room. She was friendly, and I liked her, I said. Can we just pray together for Mr. Terupt? It's late and I'm tired. Sure, sweetie, Mom said. I could tell that Grandma didn't like this one bit, but she went along with it. In school the next day, Jeffrey asked a lot of questions about our visit. He had asked Luke questions, too. How many tubes did they have hooked up to him? What was the name of the stuff they were putting into him? Were they giving him blood?
Good afternoon,
We'll pause a minute. Okay, we are back. All right. So Jeffrey was asking all those questions. What were they giving him? Were they giving him blood? What was his heart rate? Jeffrey, stop, I said. We don't know the answers and your questions are upsetting me. Sorry, he said. You should just go yourself. I saw him exchange a look with Jessica. I got the feeling that there was something I didn't know. Sorry, he said again. Then he walked away. All right, what does Jessica know about Jeffrey that no one else knows? She's the only one. Angie?
My and I kind of can relate to it. Mr. Terupt is in a coma, which means he's really sick. Michael was in the same thing, so I think he doesn't want to go because he's already had that feeling in him where he's sad and mad at the same time, and he just doesn't want to go.
Yeah, I think that can be true. Once you've already experienced something sad or hard to go through, it can be hard to go back in a similar situation. So he might not even like to go to the hospital anymore. Noah?
Didn't his brother have like so many things and he had to give stuff to him and it didn't work?
Yep, his brother didn't, he passed away. So we know Jeffrey feels a lot of guilt over that. We also know that Jessica's the only girl, or anyone in class actually, anyone that knows anything about it. All right, so Jeffrey said sorry, walked away. Dear God, it's Danielle. Things down here are getting harder. I'm doing my best, but it's not that easy. Thanks for returning Alexia, a brand new Lexi. I'm very grateful for that. But I'm about to ask for more. It's Mr. Terupt. He really needs you. He looked terrible when I saw him. There were so many of us down here that want him back so badly. He's the best teacher any of us have ever had, and I just know he's got lots of good left to do here. Comfort him if he hurts, and please heal him. And there's Jeffrey, too. I saw that look he gave Jessica. Something's up with him. Please help him. And I'd like to pray for Jessica and Lexi and Anna, all three of them without dads. That's just another reason why we need Mr. Terupt back. And last of all, I want to pray for me. I'd like to go over to Anna's house again. Maybe you can help me with that. I've also been thinking a lot about who's to blame for Mr. Terupt's accident. I thought it was Peter because he threw the snowball. But after seeing Mr. Terupt, I'm wondering if it was me. I'm the one who suggested going outside, and I helped push Peter down. So I don't think I'm completely innocent. Please forgive me. Amen. All right, Luke. I didn't think it would be as difficult going to see Mr. Terupt the second time because I knew what to expect. I was wrong. Seeing Mr. Terupt in that bed again wasn't any easier. I thought he would look better. I thought he was improving. But he looked the same, still just lying there in his bed, surrounded by the same beeps and tubes and monitors and noises from the hall. It was all just the same. I felt the lump in my throat growing. Mom's hand touched my shoulder. She saw it happening too. I stood at the side of my teacher's bed in a state of disbelief, feeling helpless. Then the doctor walked in. At least I figured he was the doctor. He had salt and pepper hair, a white coat, and a smart face. He nodded to us and then moved toward Mr. Terupt. He checked some numbers and fluids, pulled back Mr. Terupt's eyelids to look at his pupils with his pen light, and then started to leave. Wait, I said. Wait. He stopped and turned around. Are you Mr. Terupt's doctor? I asked. Yes, I'm Dr. Wilkins, one of the physicians. Is Mr. Terupt going to get better? I saw him take a big breath. He looked at my mother first, then me. I don't know, son. Well, what's wrong with him? He's in a coma, but what's wrong with him? Dr. Wilkins pulled some chairs over for us to sit in. He sat across from me. Mr. Terupt did a lot of wrestling while growing up, and even into college, he started to explain. It turns out he had to give it up because he suffered multiple concussions along the way. These concussions have weakened his brain in certain regions. The snowball that was thrown hit one of these weaker areas, the temporal, dollar word, region to be exact, and it cracked his skull. Dr. Wilkins looked very sorry as he said this. I don't know if he expected questions, but I had them. Does that mean Mr. Terupt wouldn't be in this coma if he hadn't suffered the multiple concussions? I asked. Well, I can't say for sure, but probably not. What do you do now? Just wait? Dr. Wilkins took another big breath. I got the sense there was more to the equation, more bad news, or news he was not going to share. He glanced at my mother, who nodded, giving him the okay to explain. I didn't want a sugar-coated report. I wanted the facts, and my mom knew that. Mr. Terupt has some bleeding going on behind his crack. The blood is collecting, dollar word, in his brain. We hoped it would stop, but it hasn't. He needs to undergo brain surgery so that we can clamp the bleeding vessels. And then he'll be okay? If it works, hopefully, yes. I heard the word if loud and clear. And if it doesn't, I said, brain surgery is risky. There's always a chance the patient won't recover. You mean die, I said. Mom put her arm around me. What's your name, son? Luke. Yes, Luke, your teacher could die during or as a result of the surgery. But I'm going to do my very best not to let that happen. I got up and stood by Mr. Terupt's bed. I looked at him. Dr. Wilkins got up and stood next to me. He's a pretty special teacher, isn't he? The doc said. I could only nod. Speaking would have made me cry like a baby. I'll do my best, Luke. That much I can promise. He squeezed my shoulder and left the room. Brain surgery, I thought. Mr. Terupt might never come back. I ran out into the hall. Dr. Wilkins, I yelled. He turned around. Does anyone else in my class know what you just told me? Dr. Wilkins walked back toward me. We didn't know anything about his concussions at first, he said, but another teacher, Ms. Newberry, was able to provide us with Mr. Terupt's background information. I guess Mr. Terupt had told her about his wrestling days, and it's a good thing, because we have no other contact person for him. I stood there quiet. No other person? There was nobody for Mr. Terupt. But to answer your question, there is another student in your class who knows what I told you, Dr. Wilkins said. Who? I think he said his name was Peter? I was silent. Peter? I didn't think Peter had been here. Dr. Wilkins turned to leave. Wait, I said. Does Peter know about the concussions or just that brain surgery is next? Just about the brain surgery. Why do you ask? Because Peter threw the snowball. All right, so before we're done for today, why do you think that would give Peter some relief to know all about the concussions from the wrestling days? Why would that make Peter feel better? Josiah?
Because then he'll know that it wasn't his fault.
Yep. Madeline, is that what you were going to say? Yeah. Emma?
Yeah, you won't feel as bad, but he'll still feel really bad when you do it at him.
Yeah. I think every kid in the class is feeling some guilt right now, so I don't think it's going to get the guilt to go away. But it does give you a little relief, right? I was not the only cause of this horrible problem. Noah?
It didn't say he was having a blood clot, but the blood that was building in his brain was a blood clot, and brain surgery, I think it's a 50-50 chance.
It depends what type, but brain surgery can be very risky. Think about how important your brain is, right? It does everything for you. So you have to be very careful, and there are very, very intelligent surgeons who do those surgeries. So I'm feeling confident in Dr. Wilkins, but we will find out next time we read.